So today we're going to go over the HOTMA implementation policy and procedure for certifying residents. HOTMA's been around for quite a few years, and we keep hearing that. One second, can you somehow? We keep hearing, we've kept hearing over the years that it was coming out and it'll come out in, a few months. It's going to come out in a few months. And here we are years later, still trying to catch up to it. So most of our states decided that it should be implemented by January 1st, 2025. So 26, I'm sorry. So we are rolling out this beginning implementation. This is still a work in progress. We may have changes coming up, and if they are, everybody will be notified. But we're going to start with the procedures that we're going to show today. Hopefully everyone has taken a HOTMA class because it's been around for a couple of years and we've been preparing for it. If you haven't, you might want to find a class that you can take, or, is there anything, Lisa, on Grace Hill or Nitcham?
Grace Hill. It'll take you from one.
Okay. So, policy.
Sorry, Laurie. Whoever was just speaking, we couldn't hear them.
I'm sorry.
If you're going to Grace Hill, you can take classes. There are tax credit classes. They're HOTMA classes for a tax credit, and we should all be taking these classes because it'll take you from one step to the other.
Well, that's not going to work then. I'm sorry. Difficulties. I don't know how to get you back in front of it.
Okay.
Can you just join from your computer but it's going to echo.
Hi. So, can everyone hear me now? Just nod if you can. Okay. What we're saying is that in Grace Hill, there are tax credit classes which focus on HOTMA. So in all of our trainings, we have always recommended for you to take classes. So take the classes in Grace Hill, and it should pretty much help you. And it's very much up to date on income, assets, whatever has to be calculated or not calculated any longer. So try to take those classes as soon as you possibly can. That should assist you. There are also private trainings through Nitcham, and that would be up to your regional manager if you want to participate in those. And those are also very good.
Thanks, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's start on the policy and procedure. So the policy and procedure, it says this implementation policy and procedure outlines the certification process to be implemented by January 1st, 2026 for the tax credit, home, and bond programs in compliance with the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act, which is known as HOTMA. Not everywhere is implementing for January 1st, 26. A couple of states have already implemented it. It's only a couple of our properties. I think Connecticut and North Carolina have already started. Also, in regards to the home and bond programs, we've tried to implement the HOTMA in a way that it will cover a home or bond depending how they finally decide they want to do things. They haven't really given us a good answer yet. So we're going to make sure that's covered. At some point in time, it may change where we may say that, well, home is only going to let us do this. But in the meantime, we're covered with what we usually do. Income verification, HOTMA verification hierarchy. So with HOTMA, there's a hierarchy of how they want us to verify, and it's acceptable to them in this order. So first thing they would like is an upfront income verification. That would be like the work number or other state government databases, such as like if you have child support or something, like a printout from the state. The work number, again, it says if being used because recently we were told that there is a huge cost associated with the work number, and it's up to the property whether or not they're going to use it any longer. If we decide not to use it because of cost, then we don't need to follow this hierarchy as far as that being the first thing. It's perfectly acceptable to not use the work number due to cost. The second level of the hierarchy would be to get written third-party verification generated by the source. This is an original or authentic document generated by a third-party source dated within 120 days of the date received by the owner or agent. For fixed income sources, a statement for the appropriate benefit year is acceptable documentation. So that's talking about, say, an employment verification directly from the employer, or Social Security, pensions, any of those things. The third level of the hierarchy would be oral third-party verification, meaning a clarification form would be used. You would have to call the third party and get the information. The staff will record and include in the tenant's file the following information: the third party's name, the position of the person you spoke to, and contact information, information asked and information reported, the name of the person who conducted the telephone internet interview, and the date and time of the call. I want to go back to number 2. Third-party verification could also be a document from the employer, which would be our pay stubs. Family self-certification, when the information cannot be verified by a method above, is always the last resort. We don't really want to use that if at all possible. So some of the changes from what we were doing would be with the employment income. We want, although you may have read if you took a HOTMA class that we're only going to use 2 pay stubs, we have to remember that some of the properties are going to be home, and also as a department, and I'm sure everyone could agree, 2 pay stubs isn't going to really give us an accurate idea of what the income would be from employment. So we are going to require 2 full months of pay stubs. You need to follow the HOTMA hierarchy that we just reviewed to verify and calculate annual employment income. And full-time student-dependent employment income is capped at $500 for 2026. Is that right, Lisa? So where we use, we cap them at $480 right now, it's going to be $500 for 2026. And that's one of the few items that's going to change annually. Towards the end of the year, we'll get, I think they said maybe September, the New Year's amounts will come out. Correct. As far as self-employment goes, self-employment affidavit and the most recent tax return, including Schedule C or an accountant statement. If taxes are not filed, profit and loss statements for each month in business. That's not new. Social Security, SSI, and pension, you're just going to verify that per HOTMA hierarchy. So you're going to get a printout from them. That's acceptable. Child support and alimony. This is a change. So for child support and alimony, we used to ask if they're pursuing the payments through the court or an agency if they're not receiving what they're supposed to receive. Going forward with HOTMA, we are only going to count the actual amount that they're receiving. So you'll probably want to get a printout for the last 12 months to see what they've paid over the year. And you can use that or average the months and see what they get per month or what they have been receiving. So we're allowed to just use what they're receiving, whether or not they're pursuing it in court or through an agency. Excuse me?
From DOR will give you a printout of all of the payments that they've received. So you're going to be basing it off of that.
Okay. Does that make sense, or do we need to explain that a little more? Okay. Student financial.
Sorry, could you
Sure.
explain that? What is DOR? I missed that part.
Can you put yourself on? 1 second, please.
In Massachusetts, it's the Department of Revenue. So if someone is receiving any type of child support, they can get a payment history from the Department of Revenue, and they are the ones that monitor child support. In other states, it's usually the Department of Social Services. Although in Massachusetts, we don't call it Department of Social Services any longer here. So in other states, it would be from the Department of Social Services. Okay.
Okay. Student
Okay,
financial,
thanks.
go ahead. You're welcome. Student financial assistance. Does somebody else have a question?
Hi, I do. It's Donna.
Hi.
Hey, so on the first page, going back to if you could scroll there, Lori. Okay. Number 2, it says, this is an original document generated by a third-party source dated within 120 days of the date received by the owner. So if someone requests something on August 1st and they get it August 10th, excuse me, and it's dated for, 90 days prior for a recert due, say, December or January, wouldn't that be too old? Like, I'm just wondering if this is true, or if it should say dated 120 days from the recert date. So if we're
This
beginning
is- This is what I've read in many places. This is for written third-party verification.
right.
So
if we begin, say, recert August 1st.
Yep.
October, November, that's for what, December, right? August, September, October, November. Yeah, that would be a December 1st recert. If we send something out to a third party on August 9th, this paragraph says, as long as it's 120 days from the date we receive it.
Mhm.
So if we receive it, go ahead.
If you do sit at your recert interview, you've got 120 days it's within the 120 days already. So if you're sending something out and requesting third-party verification, it's going to end up being within the 120 days because you sent it out within the 120 days. Does that make sense? Or am I not understanding?
I guess I'm reading it wrong, because this to me says
the date received
as long as
is the
it's
date of your interview. So if somebody brings it, this is talking about written third party, but if somebody brings in pay stubs that are older, than the interview date, we accept them because that's what they had at the interview.
Okay, that was my question. So 120 days prior to the interview date is fine.
Yes, but written
Okay.
third party isn't going to come in from before then normally.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions before we move on? Okay. Student financial assistance is a bigger change. We'll go through this. A student's financial assistance will be examined and verified at initial certification and again at recertification. So we're always verifying the student status of the household. Any financial assistance that is provided through a qualified Coverdell Education Savings Account, an ESE, or other qualified ESAs, or other qualified ESA is excluded. So anything covered by that is excluded. Student loans that must be repaid are excluded. They always have been. Any financial assistance received from 1, private sources, 2, from an institution of higher education, or 3, under the Higher Education Act of 1965, that exceeds amounts received for tuition and other qualified fees is included now. Student financial assistance provided by persons not living in the unit is not included if the student meets the Department of Education's definition of vulnerable youth. I don't exactly know what that is. We'd have to get the proof that they are. They do meet that definition. And then covered fees include tuition, books, supplies, including supplies and equipment to support students with learning disabilities or other disabilities, room and board, and fees required and charged to a student by an institution of higher education as defined under Section 102 of the Higher Education Act of 1965. All covered fees are excluded from income. I'm sorry, there's someone behind us talking and it's confusing me. I'm sorry about that. So let me go over that again. Covered fees include tuition, books, supplies, including supplies and equipment to support students with learning disabilities or other disabilities, room and board, and fees required and charged to a student by an institution of higher education as defined under Section 102 of the Higher Education Act of 1965. All covered fees are excluded from income. And then for students who are not the head of household, co-head of household, spouse, actual covered costs, including reasonable and actual costs of housing while attending the institution of higher education and not residing in an assisted unit. We do have forms. I know that some of this sounds confusing, but we'll go over the forms in a minute. They're going to answer all the questions. So we just, I've included those, and if you use them, it should guide you in the right direction. Hopefully everyone's taken some classes and is familiar with some of these forms. Section 8, mobile and voucher verification. This can only be used if the site is not creating the 50058 or 50059 and does not apply to move inserts, and it does not at this time apply to home and bond. So that is a verification from the housing authority administering the subsidy. In addition, all items below must be included if you use this form. Let me explain it for a minute. We're going to send a form to the housing authority that issues the mobile voucher, and they can verify the income of the household. When we do use that form, instead of verifying all of their income, we also have to include the ticket certification worksheets, the student status affidavit, because remember, we always verify student status, general authorization form, and the household eligibility questionnaire. In Connecticut, they have to use the recert update. Asset verification. Assets under $52,787. That's the amount for 1/1/26. That's also one of those things that's going to change annually. They do not require third-party verification except at initial certification and every third year. That's subject to change, that amount. They do require self-certification, and we will use the income stated on the self-certification. So again, the asset minimum is subject to change annually. It should probably increase every year. One bank statement for checking, savings, and other account types showing the ending balance for the current month. That's going to be on recert. So every time you do a recert, you just get their most current bank statement, and we're going to use whatever that ending balance is. This is for home and bond assisted units. Continue to gather 2 months of source documents. Note, move-ins will require 3 months of statements to review for additional income assets. So that's a little bit of a change. We were requiring 6 statements, partly because of the 6-month average balance on the checking accounts, but we've whittled it down to 3. We figure that covers a whole quarter of income, and we'd be more likely to catch something within the 3 months. So no more 6 months of statements. Again, we're only going to use the most current month ending balance as the account balance. Retirement accounts recognized by the IRS, for example, 401k accounts are now excluded from assets, but all distributions or withdrawals are counted as income. If any retirement account holder is 59 and a half or older, verification of the retirement account must be verified just to determine if there's been any distributions or withdrawals from the account, because that will be counted as income. If there's a distribution that's annual, even though it's only once a year, it will be counted as income because it's anticipated every year. If there was any sort of distribution for something that's not going to occur again, it's not scheduled, then it's not counted. Income resulting from assets that are not specifically excluded are included per HOTMA. Total assets in excess of the asset minimum must include either actual income or imputed income per the current passbook rate of 0.40% as of 1/1/26, when no actual income on the asset exists. Passbook rate is subject also to change annually. So there'll be a few things that change, and they're updated for 1/1 of the next year. Again, probably by September 1st. Excluded income changes. So caretaker income is excluded if the caretaker is caring for a family member in the household and preventing the need for nursing facility care. And also excluded income change is foster child earned and unearned income is excluded. Foster children are not counted as household members for income limit purposes, but are included in determining the number of bedrooms required. And this is just a note that foster children must be listed on the TIC with an F code to be excluded from the household size. This is the list of the HOTMA updated forms that we sent out with this invitation. We're going to have new HOTMA checklists for submitting applications for approval or research for approval for those properties that have to submit their research for approval. Asset self-certification form, a student self-certification, affidavit of student financial assistance, a certification of zero income, student status verification, and a Section 8 verification form. Miscellaneous information. To see the full list of excluded income, please refer to Chapter 5 of the HUD 4350.3 Handbook. HOTMA compliant TIC forms will be updated in one site by December 15th, 2025. We're going to be doing that pretty quick. Huh? From what I understand from this morning, we're going to start converting your properties over to the HOTMA TIC today. Probably we're going to start. So you may notice your TIC is different. If you have any questions. So you think it's going to kick in at a certain point? Yeah, we'll see. For any research that you enter for January or any move-in that you enter for January, it'll probably pull up that HOTMA TIC. All move-in files effective January 1st must be HOTMA compliant. Please be careful when you're getting an approval for a new move-in. If you are going to have them move in January, it needs to be HOTMA compliant. If it's before then, it does not. Does it? I don't think so. No, it's not required to be. So if you've already started on someone that's going to move in December, don't worry about it. But remember, if you bump them out to January, it's going to need to be HOTMA compliant at that point. All research effective January 1st through April 30th, 26 may be HOTMA compliant. However, recertifications effective May 1st, 2026 and after must be HOTMA compliant. So if you're working on research through April and you've already started, don't worry about it. But when you start processing those for May on January 1st, you need to use the HOTMA forms and rules. Continue to follow the current Holkeen file format. Okay. Is there any questions on that? If not, then we'll go over the forms. Okay, this is our new. Yes.
Laura, so it's a little weird because we're working on LIHTC technically to be approved December 31st. This is a specific, maybe DC question. As far as the bank statements change, we would start that after January 1.
Assisted living. we're gonna ask Linda about that.
Yeah, as far as DC is concerned, we're going to just do it as normal and for move-ins. And then for research, we'll have them do this asset self-certification. But yeah, so we still want to see the statements. Down in DC, there's basically only Social Security in the bank. Very few have houses and things like that. So it's pretty much going to be standard. Social Security is going to be their wood letter and bank is going to be verified as we have been.
Okay.
We still want to have a few statements. 3, I think, is what Laurie said. But down in DC, you don't have all the big money that some of our other assisted living sites
Okay.
do, as far as investment accounts and things like that. So it's pretty basic and it's pretty much going to stay the same. We're just going to change the tick.
So stick with the six for now, and then then we'll readdress the 3 months.
Yeah. Start with
Okay.
the 6 and then we'll go to 3 if for the move-ins after that. But I think
Perfect.
6 gives a good example of what they've been getting over the last 6 months, and we could capture any by month, any payments that are like quarterly and things like that. We'd be able to catch on that.
Appreciate you.
Okay, thanks, Toshi.
Thanks, Linda.
Yeah.
Okay, I have
Anything
a
else?
question. This is Marta from Brigham. So when we receive statements for potential resident and we catch somebody have the Social Security and they have annuity that's being deposited on the account, do we ask for those 6 months statements, 3 months? Which one?
Martha, just like I said in the beginning, we're gonna just still do the 6,
The
and
6.
then
Okay.
we'll go back to the 3
Okay, perfect.
eventually. But yeah, that'll catch any, since we sometimes have quarterly payments, like at Brigham
Right,
and Prospect and stuff.
Right.
I think it would be easier to do the 6 months just to capture anything that might be missing.
Awesome. So I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to the forms.
Can I ask one quick question?
Oh, go ahead.
About,
Our
can you hear me?
electricity just went out for a minute.
Mm.
Did I lose all of the? You can no
Nope.
longer see my screen, I assume. You can only see my
Nope.
front screen here.
Yes, I can't see.
Oh my goodness, something happened with the electricity.
Uh-oh.
I'm gonna
Christy,
have
did
to,
you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question about with research and those who have the assets under that 51,000. Doing the asset self-certification, are we also asking for a current bank statement to back up what they wrote on that, or is it one or the other?
If you see at move-in that they had $1,500 in their account or something, then we're safe to assume to use the self-certification at recert only, basing it on what we saw at move-in. So if they're saying that we need to have the one statement, so we have the amount, we're not really going to enter that amount because we're using that self-cert. So I think based on what their move-in information is, you can guarantee that they probably have under that 51.6.
So we're just using the self-serve.
Yes,
Okay,
at
thank you.
recert only, yes.
Thanks.
Okay.
Megan is asking a question. Is it going to be 3 statements for both checking and savings? We're collecting 2 for savings now.
we do want 3 for checking and savings, Megan. I don't know if it's a new property that was taken to just for time's sake, but 3 for checking and savings. We need to keep things uniform.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Megan. Okay, let's move on to the asset self-certification form. Can everyone hear me? I just don't know what happened. Okay. The asset self-certification form is something you've seen if you've taken HOTMA classes, and pretty much it's going to guide you through what you need to do. Be very careful with the form in the beginning. When you start using it, you'll become familiar with it, but it's for households whose combined net assets do not exceed that year's imputed income limit. Complete only one form per household, include the assets of the children. So what you need to know is there's several parts here, 4 parts. You're going to have the first part, which is your assets disposed of for less than fair market value. And we're all familiar with that. We've been doing that all along. So that's the part for that. And then part 2, federal tax return or refundable federal tax credit. Have you received a federal tax return or refundable federal tax credit in the last 12 months? And they want to know the amount of the return of the credit. Part 3, non-necessary personal property. Basically, there is a list of non-necessary personal property in the regulations for the HOTMA. But basically just follow along here. If they have any cash on hand, they're going to write the cash value. Prepaid debit cards will go here, checking, savings, internet-based. So you've got listed here so they know right away. Do they have Cash Apps, Venmo, PayPal, crowdfunding, anything? Whole life insurance, cryptocurrencies on here, money market CD, annuities, brokerage accounts, stocks, bonds, and there's 2 places if they have anything other that would be considered non-necessary personal property. Non-account based, so possessions not generally held in an account, such as vehicles used for recreation, not your everyday vehicle, but RVs, ATVs, boats, blah, blah, blah. So just read that and have them read it actually, because they're going to fill this out, and just describe those items that they have. And then you've got real property. If they have any real estate, that'll go down there, and we'll, value it the way we always do. And then they would sign and date it. Again, that's 1 per household. Any questions on that? Affidavit of student financial assistance. No, we don't want to go there first. We want to go here. Student status verification, because that takes the place of our household student status form. This is actually, I think I think there is a place already using it. Anyway, the section is to be completed by management and executed by the student. So we're going to fill this out. They'll sign the release up the top. I'm sorry, I did not want to start here.
You wanted to set the annual.
Yeah, I think something got messed up when the electric went off. Where is it? See if it's down here. There we go. It did. It dropped down off my screen when that happened. The affidavit of student financial assistance. This is what's going to kind of take the place of that household student status form. So this is not it either.
No, you don't want financial assistance. You want just a student verification.
Is it down here? I think it totally dropped off. It did. It disappeared. Let me see if I can find it. Yes, that's what I'm looking for, but it's not here. Okay, let me find it.
And put in the middle.
Here we go. So sorry about that. Okay, the annual student certification. This is really the one that takes the place of the student form that we currently use. Some states already use this. I think North Carolina does. So the annual student certification, they're going to fill that out just as they would the other one. They're going to select one of the options. The household contains at least 1 occupant who is not a student. The household contains all students, but is qualified because somebody is a part-time student, or the household contains all students who were and will be full-time students. So just the same as before, we're going to pick an exemption if the whole household is full of full-time students. It's really no change to that. It's just a little different form. Student status verification. So if someone tells you that they are a student, you're going to send this to the school and they're going to fill this out for you. This section is to be completed by the educational institution. So they're now going to break down different sources of financial aid for you. Hopefully they'll do it. So it's going to be the same as before with your student form. Are they going to be a full-time student? Are they enrolled? When are they going to graduate? All of that stuff. However, this breaks it down into what months they did attend. Remember, 5 months of the year. So if there's 5 here, they may or may not be qualified, but we need to consider that. Then they're going to tell you the cost of the tuition and fees, how many terms has the student been given any financial aid? And this is the important part. We need to know, they're going to let us know how much is Higher Education Act amounts, and then there would be others like grants and scholarships. So the school will sign it. So pretty much that'll just come back to you filled out. And then this also will be filled out by a full-time student. Is it full-time or any students? Full-time or part? It might be part-time.
Or part-time.
Yeah. So any student will fill this out if they're receiving financial assistance, and it pretty much, just goes through the directions. They need to tell us if they have any of the types of these assistance and if they receive it or not, and the annual amount. And then down the bottom, amounts received as other student financial assistance. And they will just fill this out. So once you have all of these, this form filled out by the actual student, they're going to sign and date it, and we'll use that information to determine if they have any income. Remember, you would use this in conjunction with what the school sends you to. You think there's anything else to explain on that?
Yeah, no, that's self-explanatory.
Yeah. All these forms are pretty much self-explanatory. They're just new. Just make sure you familiarize yourself with them. This is a new certification of zero income. So as you go through here, make sure you answer all the questions. The household expense list is much longer than it was. This means not applicable. I don't know why it says N/AP, but not applicable. So they would check that if it's not. They're going to write down whoever, again, just like the old form, is providing that assistance. Each adult household member claiming zero income, so it's 1 per household member. This is the Section 8 income verification that we spoke about. If someone has a mobile voucher and your housing authority is willing to fill it out, and they're the ones that are processing the 558 and 59, then we can use this instead of verifying their income. You'll just have to have this filled out. This resident will have to sign, the release, and they're just going to tell you down here, how many adults and children. It's a nice check to see who's on the voucher. And they're going to just fill this out for you, and you can just flat out use that as their income.
I have a question. Thank you for talking about this particular form. We have a potential person, but they ask if we accept vouchers. This is our first time. It has to do based on the community, or how do we say yes, no?
You always have to accept vouchers. It's against the law to tell them no. The only reason you wouldn't accept it is if the housing authority couldn't pay the rents that you were asking.
In the voucher, we consider as an asset. Is the vouchers coming to us?
No, that's not an asset.
No, but I'll discuss that with you later, okay, after this?
Okay, thank you.
Because we haven't had one in our assisted living, so we'll have to figure that out.
Thanks,
Also,
Linda.
the other reason you would not accept a voucher is if the household is over the tax credit limit or your program limits. We're not going to accept someone who's over our program limits to begin with. So they would just fill that out and we would use that. And then again, we've provided you with, and I don't believe this can be used at move-in, right?
It can be used.
It can be used at
Yeah.
move-in? Okay, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
think
know
we
about the
should.
household income. Yeah, the household income, that would depend.
No,
No?
we're hearing from Debenaki. No, we will not use this for move-in. Okay, and then we have a couple of new checklists to help you get through this process. This is going to be the new checklist that you'll send in with your approval requests for applications. Fill it all out. You're going to go down the list. It's kind of in order. It's pretty much in file order. So if you just follow along here, you should be good with submitting your files in this order. If there's something that doesn't apply to you, you just skip it. Check off the items that you have enclosed. And it gives you the whole list of everything. Again, this is for move-in, so you see all the resident screening and identification documents at the bottom. If your compliance manager is asking to see any other types of documents for your particular property, you can fill it in down here on your master. And you would sign it, the person who's submitting it to their compliance manager, and the date they submitted it. We also have a new one to use for annual research. Again, it's in the order that you should submit it to compliance pretty much. It goes all the way on down through just anything that's needed for research. That's it. Sign it and date it. That's for only properties that have to submit their recertifications either due to a certain issue or most times when there's a new person doing research, we ask to see them. Other than that, if you've been there, you've been doing your research, we're not asking for them. This doesn't apply to you to come to us.
Shaylin. Andrea, she's the assistant property manager. She wants to know the Section 8 verification isn't used at move-in. Then it's only used at research. Is that
Yes,
correct?
Section 8 income verification can only be used at research time. When someone moves in, we always want to cover ourselves pretty much as a rule of thumb and to get everything you can so that we know for sure what their income and assets are.
But not for home and bond.
Not for home and bond, you cannot use the Section 8 verification, income verification. Didn't say that earlier, but remember that. It's, oh, we did say it. Yeah, home hasn't provided any guidance to us really. We're kind of just winging it.
They're waiting for HUD.
We're winging it. They're waiting for HUD to determine what they want to do with the home programs. So we're pretty much with the 2 months of source documentation and all of that for home, we should be pretty covered. And that's it. I'm sorry that there were some technical difficulties.
In progress.
Yeah, as Lisa's just saying, this is a work in progress. You will most likely get updates as we go along. This is just a way to kick off the HOTMA implementation. I think we're good. I was thinking this morning, if you do have any sort of review after we start using HOTMA and they come up with something that we need to know, maybe we need to change our policy or procedure, please let your compliance manager know as soon as you get a finding that's related to HOTMA so we can adjust if we need to. And correct if needed. So again, hopefully we can all get through this together. We've been doing our best to try to start this up and you know, we don't know when HUD will come on. That's still a whole other thing. That's why HUD properties are not included in this implementation at this time. But you know, as soon as that rolls out, we'll let them know. Anything? Lisa?
Stephanie Marrero wants to know, so can we start using these forms as of today for move-in interviews? For if they're January. She comes
Yeah.
from a combo property, so.
Yeah, if it's for January, yes. If it's not, you don't use the new forms. We have to have a clear cutoff at each site. They need to know when you stopped using it and when we started using it because they don't want a mixture of everything together. Any other questions? You can use your chat feature or you can just chime
Okay,
in.
she said, got it, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ebony is asking, which I think she is assisted living. She's asking.
No,
whether-
Ebony's in Connecticut, right?
She in Connecticut?
She's at Curtis
I
Cofield.
am, I'm in Connecticut.
Oh, okay. So when you say home and bond, do you mean for the entire property or just the units that the program is applied to?
The whole property.
Thank you.
If you have any home or bond units on your property, that's what it means.
Okay. It's in the chat.
And again, this is starting January 1st.
1 second, please. What is she saying?
She's saying not every property is home and bond. So this, that is just for like home and bond. So every unit that has home or bond are treated differently.
Okay, we just got an update. Every unit that has home or bond, so it's by the unit, would be treated differently. Just remember, there's some properties out there that don't have home or bond. This is particularly, for those particular units on any sites.
So it's not for the whole site, just the units.
Yes.
Is the student fills out the student verification form, but the school verification is not sent back to you? What would you use as an alternative?
As an alternative, if you don't get the student verification back from the school, of course you want to pursue it. But if
Registrar will provide that.
Yeah, the
information.
registrar will provide the information, but if for some reason you don't get it back, you can always ask them for a financial aid award letter or, and their tuition bill.
Registration letter.
You will then have to figure out what's, under certain programs or, what's included and excluded. You'll have to pull that apart yourself. So please try to pursue it from the registrar's office.
Lori.
Yeah?
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Lisa.
And if the university provides a letter from the registrar to the student, they can also give the office that letter that they're receiving from the registrar, because most of the information is given to the student so that they can provide elsewhere. So that would also verify their student status, their full-time status, and any kind of financial aid that they're receiving. Okay.
Go ahead, Megan.
If compliance is not currently reviewing someone's recertification files, are they going to want to start doing that for the first few months of HOTMA? Is that going to be changing?
I don't believe so.
As far
That's
as
a
we
lot.
know, it's not changing.
Okay.
That's a Debenaki question. We don't have the capacity.
Right.
And so that's one of the reasons why. So I think Debbie would say the same thing.
Hopefully there can be somebody that is close to the site that could take a peek at them and make sure it's following along, I would think.
And, we're always open to questions anyways. If you have a question, you can always call, because every site does have a compliance manager. And even if we're not following them, monitoring them, you can always call and ask a question, any kind of specific questions. So that may help.
I think the first key thing is to make sure the forms are filled out correctly. If they are, even if we make some little mistake, the information's in the file. Maybe at some point we'll audit a file or two just to peek at it, but that's not a plan as of now.
So just for clarity purposes, for recertifications, the Section 8 income verification is replacing income verification for voucher holders.
Mobile voucher holders.
Yep, okay.
So the housing authority has to be involved, or agency, and they will fill it out for you.
Hi, Laurie. This is Maria. Quick question. Will at some point we'll get all the correct forms to standardize it across the board? One of my struggles is that as I go to different communities and I'm helping out with the application process on the assisted living side, I find that everyone has different forms, and I'm often calling Linda, hey, I never saw this before. I like to think that I know how to do the application, but I see forms that, like Corcoran is a good example. There were forms there that I never used before, and Linda would say, no, we don't do that. And if I go to, another property, there's different forms. Can we get all the updated forms for the assisted living? I can have a good handle on auditing all of my communities anyhow, they're all tax credit except one, it'll give me a better understanding of what I'm looking at and how to better support with the application.
Let's let Linda answer that.
Yeah, Maria, I will send out all the new forms. I have sent out some
Okay,
to properties, but I will send out a whole, like what Spectrum had for
yeah,
HOTMA forms. So I
okay.
will be sending those out. I thought most of them may have them, but they may not. I'll send everybody the forms.
What I did last year, I went on Spectrum and I printed out all the new forms, but
Yeah,
I'm not sure if there are changes. I like to have the updated forms. That would be great.
there
We
are
should
HOTMA forms on Spectrum.
We should
Okay.
never go to Spectrum and print forms. This department approves every form that we use. Some of the
Okay.
forms that Spectrum uses, we've revised for certain reasons. So only
Okay.
use what comes from us, please.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anybody, and you're welcome. Any other questions coming through?
No.
If anyone has a question, please put it in the chat, or speak up.
Hi, Laurie. I had a question. On the asset verification, are we doing still the third-party verifications for the banks? Or are we just using the ending balance on the statement?
For moving, you can try sending the verification if you're able to get them back, because that way we'll have an exact idea of what their accounts are. But yeah, you're allowed to use the ending balance from a statement.
Okay,
If you can't get it directly from the bank, you can use the statement. That goes in that hierarchy.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question regarding that topic. So when we have somebody coming in, we give them the package to start filling it out. If we ask them to provide us the latest 6 months of bank statements, do we still need to do the verification to Thomson, the bank verification? Do we still need to
Yes.
do that?
Yes, we do have to do the third-party verification, whether it's to a bank that we mail it to, or if it's Bank VOD or confirmation.com. We want to make sure that we have the third party. But if we can't get it for some reason, then we'll use the one bank statement for the total at the ending balance for the most recent statement. But yes, we do want to verify the bank still at move-in. We want
And
to make
also at
sure what they
move-in,
have.
remember at move-in, we want 3 bank statements to look for additional income or assets.
Okay,
That's the only reason to review the deposits.
got
Mhm.
it.
Anything else? Okay, I guess, is there anything there, Lisa?
No, it just says, is anyone talking? I can't hear anything.
Yes, I
That's
did have a
Alyssa.
question about the Spectrum forms. I understand that the 2020 forms are not valid. So if we're not supposed to just download them straight from Spectrum, are you able to send them down to the DC teams, the one we're supposed to be using?
It's Linda.
Linda?
Yes, I'll check with Lori on what forms they had changed, because I wasn't aware. But I will check with her on the ones that they've updated, and I'll send you a complete list of forms.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it looks like that's it. Thank you for sitting in on the
Thank
meeting.
you.
Wait a minute, we have one more question.
One more
So-
question.
So for anyone receiving a Section 8 voucher, we can use this for the income on the tick. Will we still need to do our own calculations and verifications? Is this also for project-based voucher, not for project-based vouchers?
No, not project-based, it's only mobile vouchers. You do still need to have, again, we don't use it at move-in, so we're talking research time. So you would still need your household eligibility questionnaire filled out. You need to put the student status in there, the
And all the
asset.
income, assets, everything, to
Yeah.
see if they're tax credit
Yeah.
eligible.
But as far as plugging in the income on your tick, on your new HOTMA tick, you would just plug in the amount that housing says the household income is at. As we go along, this is again a work in progress. Work with your compliance manager if you have any questions. And we can work as a group just to get this moving forward and to get it done correctly.
And remember, every property has a compliance manager. So all you have to do is contact them, email them, call them, anything that, any kind of question that you need answered, whether you're monitored or not. We're always available for any types of questions. Are we sending out the correct forms company-wide? That's the person from COIL who wants to know.
Are we sending out the correct forms company-wide? Someone from COIL is asking. You should have the forms that you've been using. You're fairly new. The only new forms you're going to have, and you're going to replace them, is with these HOTMA forms that were attached to this invitation. So, you know, your student status has to be exchanged with the student status form that we have now. Your assets current and disposed would be replaced with the annual, what is it, asset? Annual asset certification or affidavit. Really, we're going to keep using the same forms we've been using, except for these few changes that went out with this invitation. If you're not sure what it's replacing, ask your compliance manager.
No more questions.
All right, we're gonna end here. Again, keep in touch with your compliance manager if you're, you know, kind of having a hard time with starting this up, but just like everything else, it should become a routine. And if you haven't taken your classes yet, be sure to join a HOTMA training.
Really, take a HOTMA class, take the Grace Hill classes, they'll help you. And if you have the ability to sign up for a NICHM class, I found that is probably the one that's the best in explaining everything, as far as what you need to do and how to verify anyone. And they're always open to questions once you register.
Okay. Again, this will be available. It's going to be recorded. We'll let you know where it is once it is downloaded or uploaded to the, I don't know where we're going to upload it to.
We'll see.
We'll figure it out and we'll let everyone know.
We could put them on the portal, or it may be able to do it with Grace Hill, but we'll try with the portal first.
Okay. Well, have a
Thank
good day,
you.
everyone. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. You're welcome.